between Karna and battle between Karna and Arjun. Karna was on the last day chasing Arjun all over. Apparently, it seemed that Karna was on the upper hand all the time. But Krishna, with his skill, managed to keep Arjun away from him. Finally, toward the end of the evening, it happened that Shalya, who was the charioteer for Karna, he drove him into a place where his wheels got stuck. And that would mean that he would have to be taken out, and for some time he'll be unarmed, which is what he wanted, which is what had been told to him, that was try to get him. Now, Shalya jo hai stands for deceit. Deceit. Now, when a child is born, the child does not know deceit. It knows no lie. So, Hamisha, it always, it's always truthful, will not make it will not commit any deceit. But it's when it sees its grown-ups indulging in lies and deceit, then it tries to copy them, follow them. And very soon, you find that there are advantages in deceit and lying. So he starts using it more and more frequently till it kind of becomes a second habit. So झूठ बोलता ही रहता है. When he keeps on, indulging in lies and deceit, then naturally people don't trust him. Others don't trust him. And others try to lie to him also, try to make a fool out of him also. And eventually, it happens to such an extent that the one who is trying to deceive others or trying to lie, he is not able to understand, he is not able to make out whom to trust and whom not to trust. And this whom not to trust and trust makes him isolated, and he makes him all fearful because he's not sure what action to be taken. More and more, the more he keeps on indulging in it, the more he keeps on getting into the this kind of unreal or falsehood, till eventually he gets so confused that he's not able to take any decision whatsoever. Because whatever decision he takes, he feels perhaps it is something wrong. There's something wrong with it. So deception and lies must be nipped in the bud. But anyway, in this case, this Shalya, who is deceit itself, deceit personified. This and they're all characters are within us. This deceit eventually will take us and get us stuck somewhere because we won't be able to move, we won't be able to take any decision, and that is the meaning of that we get his wheels get stuck in the mire. So when we are not able to take any decision because we have been cheating, because we don't know what is right and wrong, we get thoroughly confused. And that's the time when we are not able to decide anything, we're not able to judge anything. And that's the time we become vulnerable. This is Shalya driving Karn and driving us, all of us, into the mire. Now, when Arjun, sorry, when Karna was thus caught like this, he had no option but he had to get off that his chariot and pull off and remove the wheel so that what's his name, his charioteer Shalya, he could drive the horses. So it was always the case with this also when Arjuna, if you recall, when Arjuna's wheel had got stuck, he had also got off his chariot and pulled off the wheel. And it was that time that Karn, he held back his arrow. Here he saw that while he had been so not generous, he had been following the rules that had been laid down before the war. That a person who is unarmed should not be attacked. And in this case, the Karn had to leave his bow, Vijay bow, in the chariot itself and help and get the wheel off. That time he saw uh, Arjun aiming at him. Arjun, if you what had happened was meanwhile that when his wheel got stuck, Arjun held back his arrow and he was not any aggressive. It was then that Krishna told him, you have to, now is the time to, when he is unarmed, to be able to, you should be able to kill him straight away, take off your arrow. But Arjun was a little hesitant. Then Krishna told him that you don't hesitate. He has done a lot of violation of the norm, and these norms are no longer valid. So this is the time to just kill him. So Arjun started taking aim. When he started taking aim, then he uh, was reminded of the Brahmin's curse, which resulted in his chariot wheel getting stuck. It happened that once when he was out hunting with Prince Duryodhan, he heard some noise. Duryodhan immediately said, "Dear Karna," without thinking, without a second thought, he just pulled out his arrow and shot. But he was a very good marksman, and immediately it struck that sound where it was coming from, and it killed him. When Karna went to retrieve that carcass of that deer, what he thought was a deer, he was shocked to find that it was a cow. Then he was very upset because killing a cow is the worst kind of crime that you can do. So he traced the owner of the cow. He traced the owner of the cow and offered to compensate him. But then that owner, that Brahmin who owned that cow, he said, "No way can you ever compensate me for the death of this cow." But then he told uh, uh, Karn that, "O king," and he knew that he was a king. He said, "O king, when you're out hunting with Prince Duryodhan, you should have been on your guard. Even though inadvertent, you've killed a very pious animal when it was caught in the wine. Like this cow, which is caught in the wine. One day, if you don't, if you're not careful, you too will be caught in wines like this. The wheels of your chariot will get stuck, and you will die." This was a curse which he had given him. Now, this curse, what does it curse mean? It says, "O king," he says, king was one who's an independent person. "O king, when you're out hunting with Prince Duryodhan, Duryodhan is supposed to be a material, stand for materialism. He says when you're with this materialism out and gathering material wealth, then you have to be careful. Even though inadvertent, even though without you meaning it, without realizing, you'll keep on committing acts which will bind you to karma. And eventually, if you're right at the end of the life, also toward the end of your life, if you do not extricate yourself from the things that are material things in the world, then you remain engrossed in it, then you'll die without achieving moksha or liberation. That's the meaning of this curse. Anyway, when Arjun saw this, when Karna saw Arjun aiming at him, he was also reminded of a second curse. Second curse was from by his guru. If you recall, initially what had happened when Karna was rejected by Dronacharya and he was not accepted as a disciple, then Karna decided that he has to go to and search for somebody else who would be able to teach him all the craft of archery. So he went to Lord Parshuram, and Lord Parshuram, then he told Lord Parshuram that he's a Brahmin and he has come to be his disciple. He is seeking discipleship from the Lord Guru, from Lord Parshuram. Lord Parshuram took him, and because he was exceedingly diligent, and he paid a lot of attention, he really became the most proficient of them all. And naturally, Lord Parshuram was very happy with him. It so happened that on the penultimate day, the last day when he was just about to leave, not penultimate day, the last day when he was leaving in the afternoon, the great guru decided to have a last minute stroll with him. It had become afternoon, and the guru felt tired. So Karna offered to sit cross-legged and said, "You can rest your head on my thigh while I'm sleeping." while you're sleeping. And and while I sit cross-legged, you can place your head on upon me and rest. It will be my honor, pleasure. And immediately, the great Guru, who's and Karna was his favorite, so immediately he said yes, agreed, and he lay down that way in that pose in the afternoon. It was at that time an insect, a borer insect, managed to crawl into his clothing, and while he was into his clothing and reached up to his thigh. In his thigh, he started boring. When he was unable to go any further, he started boring into his thigh, and a lot of blood started coming out. But Karn, not wanting to disturb his master, his guru, just kept absolutely still. After some time, when Lord Parshurama, then the borer insect which was there, after it had bored into his thigh, he came off and then disappeared from wherever it had come. Lord Parshuram, when he awoke there, he was aghast at the sight of all the blood that was strewn around. Then he told Karna, "You cannot be a Brahmin, or no Brahmin can sit still with the pain, the kind of pain that you would certainly have endured. You are undoubtedly a Kshatriya." This is also a metaphor. I'll explain that metaphor to you. Then he said, then it's after that, you have lied to me. And when death stares you in the face, this was the curse he has given you, lied to me. When death stares you in the face and you reach out for your weapons, then all the knowledge that you've acquired will disappear from your mind. This was the curse he gave him. Now, what does this mean? See, he says, first it was a comment that you could not be a Brahmin because no Brahmin can sit still. Brahmin is one who has conquered his mind. He's not. He has no passion in him whatsoever. So he says, and blood is refers to animal or passion. He said, you cannot be a Brahmin. He says you are one of those who has not yet conquered your uh, passion fully. And when the insect crawling up to his thigh means, in spite of that, and because of that, you will be roused. You'll be thoughts of, you will be roused. And even though you may not react, even though you are keeping still, which means that even though you are not, physically you are not moving around, the thought will remain in your mind. And if these thoughts remain in your mind, then you are a Kshatriya. That means you will act as you will carry out acts which will result in karma. Kshatriya means you will be acting as a doer. You will not be able to do what they call nishkam karma without desire. A Brahmin can do that, but a Kshatriya is not able to do that because his mind is all the time. I mean, he is a doer. So he says, if you have conquered all your passions fully, then only you will be able to engage in nishkam karma, what will be non-action. You had dealt with earlier. Again, I'll be dealing with it today. So then he says, then he gives him the curse. He says, "You lied to me." He said, "You should." Now that lied to me ka ek aur apna wo hai. See, when you go to a guru, if you now this is not a metaphor; it is explaining in a different context. Now, when you go to Guru, you must tell him the truth because if you don't tell him the truth, some little blemish stays with you. Then that blemish will remain with you, and it is possible that at the wrong time it may show up and distort your mind and force you to commit something which is not desirable. So that is why they told him, "You have lied to me." Then he says, when you death stares you in the face at the last moment, just when you're about to die, and Lord Yama is at your doorstep, that time when you reach out for your weapon, that time even if you think of God for a moment, and you think of God, you reach out for the means. Now think of God means you'll start doing a jap or this or name repetition or jap or bhajan or whatever, a mantra, you keep on reciting some mantra. If you do that, then all all the thought from your mind will, all the knowledge that you acquired will disappear. Now, this has been interpreted to mean that he will not be able to, all the knowledge only he has disappeared. But here it does not mean knowledge which will disappear. All our mind, from our the time we are born, impressions are formed in our mind. Those impressions are the ones which shape our, which form our character. Guna jo hai, because of these continuous impressions, they result in likes and dislikes. And likes and dislikes, they turn into desire. And desires turn into action, into karma. And they turn into habit. And the habit turn into our character. And our character gives us our characteristics, which are called guna. So yeah, all the impressions are there, which give us our guna. And these gunas are eventually not only result in karma and ego, but they also are responsible for birth and rebirth. So here he says that your mind will turn blank. All your whatever you have learned will all disappear, and your mind will turn blank. So he says that whatever you have learned means the impressions, and they'll all be erased. Your ego will be destroyed. Mind will turn blank means your ego will be destroyed. So in fact, this is the most blessed uh, boon which can be granted by uh, any master to his disciple. This is a boon which has been granted by Lord uh, Pashuram to all of us, to 100% of us. It's not merely meant for what's his name, Karna. It is meant for all mankind. And even if the last moment, if we just think of God, then we will attain Him. We will attain divinity. And he says, and if you recall, he started with this that you're not a Brahmin. He says, even if you're not perfect, even if the doership, the little bit of ego is there, which results in doership, then too, if you think of God in the last moment, then this, all your ego will be still be completely destroyed, and you will attain to divinity. You will attain moksha. That is a boon that is granted. So that curse is not really a curse; it is a boon, in fact, and this is the best boon that anybody could have. So with that, then he was reminded of this thing. Then when Karna saw that Arjun was aiming at him, he reached out with his hand to get his bow. Then suddenly he was thought of his promise to his mother that I will not kill any of your sons. Although he had later qualified it by saying, except Arjun, either Arjun will get killed or I will get killed. In either case, you'll have your 5 sons alive. If you recall, a day earlier, just before sundown, he had disarmed his Arjun completely. And then when he was taking aim, he's, he stopped back for a moment to consider because what he saw there in front of him was not some his opponent. He saw in him Arjun. In Arjun he saw his younger brother staring at him helplessly, and he was filled with compassion. The same thing happened here. Even though he was reaching out there, suddenly he decided not to take his weapon and let it be there. And it was then that, under prodding by Lord Krishna, Arjun fired an arrow Anjali, and that was one which killed him eventually. Anjali, if you recall, is an offering of great to God with both hands. इस तरह आप offer करते हैं. So this was one great warrior acknowledging another great warrior. Anyway, after the death of uh, after the death of Karna, there was great jubilation in the Pandav camp, but then there was great sorrow in Duryodhan's camp. Duryodhan himself was extremely, not only sorrow, but he was extremely upset. But and he was inconsolable because for him he had backed all his life upon this upon Karna. Meanwhile, when Kunti came to know, and Krishna of course knew that when Kunti came to know, she was extremely sorry also. She was sorry for the reason that here was her son, whom she loved very much, but whom she had not acknowledged and not given him the place and position and the affection that a mother should have given to a child. So she was sorry of her own reason. Krishna was sorry because not only was Karna an excellent warrior, he was the finest warrior, but he's also the greatest Danvi. So for their own reasons, this uh, people were very unhappy. So of course, at that time, what? Just 1 minute. Yeah, okay. Then Yudhishthir, that time when the battle was over, because this was also toward the end of the day. But at the end of the day, all the bodies were taken out, and they have to be set to fire. Their last rites have to be performed. So while all other bodies were taken out and for last rites were being performed appropriately, so was also Karna's turn. When Karna was this thing was to be taken out, Duryodhan came and said that you can't be doing this because Karna, all your life he meant nothing to you. Now suddenly you come forward and want claim his body as one of you. He's my friend, and his last rite will be performed by me. Krishna said, yes, let it be done. By it is only right that Duryodhan performs his last rite. So, meanwhile, what had happened was that Kunti, when she came to know that he has been killed, she rushed up to his body and started weeping there. Yudhishthir and the brothers did not understand why was she weeping, why was she upset, until she told him that you do not know Karna. He was not a Kaurav, he was a Pandava. He was my son, the eldest of your brothers, and he was the son of Lord Surya. Then Yudhishthir told him, how come mother did not tell me, and you made us commit such a crime of killing our own brother? Then she narrates the circumstances in which he was born, and till, that she said that, look, I was a maiden, young maiden, unmarried young maiden, and I felt ashamed of telling the society that he is my son. Now, till that time, it was not a stigma for an unmarried girl to have a child. It was not a stigma for a woman to have a child from anybody, through anybody. It did not matter. That was quite the norm, as we had seen in case of Satyavati, when she says that uh, I offer myself to Lord, say, Parashar. So those incidents were already there. So when Yudhishthir learned from Kunti what that she had suppressed this information from the Pandavas, because had this information been known to them, none of the Pandavas would have fought against Karna. Anyway, so Yudhishthir, then he pronounced a curse upon his mother. He says, Mother, all your life you have been a model of righteousness. Whatever has happened from uh, whatever uh, emitted from your mouth has always been truth. Since this thing is a falsehood, and since this thing is not true, you have hidden it from us. Henceforth, from that time onward, this kind of I mean, a child born in these circumstances, this kind of uh, will be called illegal, illegitimate child. Such a child will be called an illegitimate child. This is a courtesy pronounced there. From that time onward, if a young maiden, has a child out of marriage, then that is called an illegitimate child from that time onward. Anyway, so his last rites were to be performed. Duryodhan therefore came forward also, and Krishna advised uh, Yudhishthir and the Pandavas to stay back and refrain and let Duryodhan perform his last rite. So his last rites were accordingly performed by Duryodhan, and he was very, very upset because he had nothing more to do that. Meanwhile, what happens is next day, with Karna gone, Shalya, who was very upset at the way Karna killed when he was unarmed. Sorry, when he was killed when he was unarmed. So, Karna itself is deceit. All is throughout the battle, before the battle, and throughout this battle for this last 17 days, he uh, he was helping out the Yudhishthir, even though he was on the corrupt side. And even when he was charioteer of Arjun's, Karna's charioteer, even there he kept on, trying to undermine his courage and try to bring fear into Karna. But when he saw the way in which Karna was deceived, or rather killed in an unsportsmanlike manner, with a violation of norm, so he suddenly got upset and he decided that he is going to uh, battle it out with the Kauravas, and he will decide now to genuinely fight for the Kauravas. So when he decided that, Duryodhan said, "Okay, from today you will be the commander in chief of this army, of my army." But by that time, three of the greatest warriors that were there in his side, Bhishma Pitama, Dronacharya, and Karna, these three having gone, he did not have anybody who could match the Pandavas. So what he decided was that he'll straight away have war with, he'll battle it out with Yudhishthir. What he reckoned was that if he's in a one-to-one combat, if he's able to get the better of Yudhishthir, he will be able to, the battle will be over. The war will be over. If he defeats the king, then the war will be over. Now, if you recall, uh, Shalya was the master of the mace. That means he is one who deals with the head. But Yudhishthir was a swordsman, and he was no mean swordsman. He was very good. Also with the sword, he was exceedingly good also. So the two of them kept on battling, and after a long time, eventually Yudhishthir managed to kill Shalya. Yudhishthir, if you recall, is truth and righteousness. Shalya is on the other hand is deceit. So however much deceit and lies and deceit may want, truth and righteousness will eventually uh, destroy uh, falsehood. Truth will destroy falsehood. That is the significance of Yudhishthir killing Shalya. Okay, I think we'll stop here and take up some of the questions which Shivi, then I think Vani and Puru had asked for. I'll have to use my phone. There. Okay. So you can all unmute your self now so that, if there are any questions are there that we can ask. Now, Shivi had asked one very good question. He wanted to know, and I think Vinita also had mentioned that she wanted to know something about dharma. But to understand dharma and karma, uh, I would suggest that we'll go to the very beginning. And if we start at the very beginning, then we'll get a picture of where we are and what is the position of dharma and karma in the whole scheme. And that time we'll be able to understand better. So let's start with this. Just excuse me, one moment. Do you exist? Then I'm sure all of us will get stumped. What kind of question is this? Of course I exist. There's no doubt about it. Where is the doubt? But my question is, how do you say you exist? What makes you say so? Well, your answer will be, I exist because I can feel myself, I can sense myself, I can sense my surrounding, I'm aware of where I am, I'm completely conscious and everything that is there. I know who I am, that if I stretch out myself completely, then from my toe to the to my head top, and from if the arms are both stretched out, then from the tip of the finger of the left arm to the tip of finger on the right arm, all that is me. And everything else is, although not me, but it's all part of reality. So that's how I identify myself. And that's how I know that I'm not really exist, but I'm convinced I'm exist. Then my question will be, wow, can it be that you are dreaming? Because in a dream also, in 2, 3 minutes, you would have covered a whole several lifetimes, couple of lifetimes, and all those things they appear so uh, vivid and they're so realistic. Well, your answer will be, it's not impossible, but even then, suppose I'm dreaming, sometime I'll wake up, then it will be the truth. Now, the answer for that, the question which I would like to ask is, what if you are part of somebody else's dream? It's not your own dream. And we are all of us who are listening to this, watching this, we are part of somebody else's dream. That somebody else may be sitting in Mars or he may be in some other galaxy. And he wakes up there and suddenly all of us disappear. Because when the dream disappears, then everything, the whole dream and all the characters that are there in the dream, they also disappear. So poof, all of us are gone. So none of us will be existing there. Now that possibility is there. We can't rule that out, but we will not consider that because we will consider that only the possibility that I exist and I am. Then, then what I would like to suggest is that okay, now we are convinced that I am, that we're there. But is this the only truth? Now the sages there, our sages over the centuries and almost not only in a continuous manner, one stage after another stage, has been telling us that in fact we are in kind of a very great sleep. And that is why several of these saints tell us, wake up, wake up. There's a very nice Sri Ravi Shankar ji. He says a few, quote was there, which where it was slight poetry was there, where it says, wake up, wake up. So so it's not only that what we call reality is the truth. The sages tell us that this is not the truth. The truth is something else. Then, of course, if the truth is something else, what is the truth and what is it? So the sages say that there's one power source, one whole mighty power source, large power source, but which is unmanifested and which alone it is, and there's nothing else beside that. That it is that power source, and this is that, and that is unmanifested. So since it is unmanifested, it does not have any attributes. Only thing is this power source is infinite, and it has got infinite knowledge. It's infinitely aware of everything. Consequently, it is present everywhere. It exists everywhere. It knows everything. It is responsible for everything. Now, we see the whole universe. The sages tell us that it is the manifested portion of the same power or the power source. This power source is one without a second. And this entire manifested uh, universe that we see, that also is in fact part of the uh, same unmanifested power source. Initially, this universe which is there, Prakriti, and that power source is called Purush. Of course, it has been called by different names by different sages. Some have called it Purush, some have called it Ishwar, some have called it Brahman, and Lord Buddha called it Shunya. But it's the same thing, it is that since it is unmanifested or since it does not exist, it exists, but it is not visible, it is like nothing, it is zero, but a very powerful, potentially a very powerful source from which everything eventually emanates. So, in fact, once I asked somebody, if the truth is the same, how come everybody, all these sages, are not able to decide, have given different uh, definitions? It's not that they've given different definitions or it's not the same. They've described it differently because they have to put their experience in words. Otherwise, okay, we'll take this. I had taken up all the six systems of Hindu philosophy, plus Jain and Buddhist and Charvak. And there I had explained, along with the Abrahamic religion, there I had explained the differences and the likes and dislikes. But maybe if necessary, we can do that again. So the sages tell us that apart from this life which was there, there's something else which is the truth. And the truth is that there is this power source which is the source of everything that is there in the universe. Out of this power source, im- when this power source starts interacting with Prakriti, which is also a part of Purush, then a form is generated. This form, when it is generated over a small portion of the Prakriti consciousness. That this small portion of Purush, sorry. And what is this Purush? This Purush is consciousness. If you recall, when I asked you, how do you say that you are, what makes you say you exist? The answer was that yes, I can feel myself, I can experience myself, I'm conscious of myself. So this consciousness is the root cause, is the root of all our existence. So, and this consciousness stems from the entire power source which is there, unmanifested. So we are in fact part of that same power source, the same source or same Purush, the infinite Purush. Some 16, 17 years ago, I think, or maybe, yeah, I think, or maybe 18 years ago, there was a picture called Spy Kid. Spy Kid. This was a picture in which a game was there, and in that game, the children were invited to play. But when the children were invited to play, they had to get inside into that game. And once they got into that game, they would lose contact of all from the outside world, and they would be in kind of a cocoon in which uh, they would not be able to communicate. They will not be able to see anything outside that cocoon. But anybody, their parents had entered from outside, they could see that. Once they entered the cocoon, then they would see that everything, their history has been changed, everything has been changed, the rules are changed, everything has been changed. And in there, you start playing the game where you'll be standing first, where you'll suffer losses, where you'll suffer, achievement, all kinds of things are there. You live your life. Now, the parents who are watching the child are yearning for the child, but the child has already gone into that game and is unable to get out of the game and is forgotten all about the child. So it is same thing with us that we are in this kind of a game in this cocoon where the truth, the reality is something outside this cocoon, which we are not able to see. And it is all the sadhana that we are doing here. In fact, in this thing, including this meeting that we are having, this is part of our journey, like sister had put it very beautifully. Usha ji ne bahut अच्छी तरह से word किया था. Is a journey from I am to I am that. So that I am that, that is the ultimate truth, which is what we are trying to uh, attain. Now, this journey does not have only one path; it has numerous paths, and in numerous paths, which have been among the several of them which have been given in Bhagavad Gita, are, for example, the path of karma, the path of bhakti, the path of knowledge, Gan or Rajpath, and so many others. All they are there. Now, this dharma is a path of action because this is a path of action. So all the Buddhists also, this term dharma is there. You find Buddhists also in the Vedic, of course, it is there, and also in the Jain path. So wherever karma is involved, wherever you work path of action you choose for achieving the ultimate divinity, that is where the word of dharma comes in. What is karma? Now, in dono ko, in order to dharma and karma actually are opposites of each other. This is best explained by the little what shall I say, a story which I put up in on page 35 just before the commencement of the Mahabharata. I put that a passage, a small passage there on creation, page 35 पे है. Discussing about dharma. So dharma जो है uh, and karma. No, when it happened long time ago, when wars, wickedness, and strife had become widespread and rampant on the earth was unable to bear it any longer, and went and appealed to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva then said he went into deep meditation. And when he got out of meditation, he found he was in the center of absolute nothingness and all the world that was there. Everything had just disappeared. There's absolute nothingness. Then knowing that no more were there any sins or wickedness, he started dancing, dancing with joy, singing Boom Boom Hara Hara. This is the dance of death. It's called Pandav. I call it Mahabharata. I'll explain what is the meaning of Mahabharata. Maha means great, and Bharat means Bha, Ra, and Ta, the three roots of Bhav, Ras, and Tal, three attributes of dance. So Mahabharata refers to the great dance. It also refers personified to the great dancer. That is Lord Shiva. And this has been caught very beautifully on a bronze, on South Indian bronze, of Lord Nataraja dancing, in which his hairs are shown whirling around as he keeps on dancing. His playing hair, they represent karma, generation of karma. And karma is therefore moving away from divinity, moving away from Shiva. Dharma, on the other hand, is moving towards Shiva. What is Shiva? Shiva is absolute stillness, and karma is, and when he's dancing, he's generating energy, he's generating motion. So karma is actually motion, and dharma is actually stillness. Moving towards stillness and moving away or from stillness is motion. So dharma is the absolute opposite of karma. Now, what is dharma? Dharma, okay. I see that two, three concepts are there. We need to know dharma, we need to know ego, and we need to know कर्म होते हैं तीनों चीजों को I was, I've done with karma on a number of occasions earlier, but I'll touch upon it a little bit again today. What is dharma? See, like I've said, dharma and karma are absolute opposites of each other. Dharma is defined in several ways. It is the divine law that holds together or sustains the entire universe, from microcosm to the macrocosm. This is one of the definitions. And there are so many other definitions there which lead to balance in the world, etc., etc. It's a principle of righteousness, avidya. But dharma actually is just to be, being. To be is dharma, that which you are. To be what? That which you are, or that which the thing is. What does being mean in terms of inert substance? Now, being, it can apply to both the inert substances, then plants, animals, and it can apply to man also. ये धर्म है क्या? So dharma in case of inert substances like water or like common salt, which you add in water to make it salty, or it can be any of the elements, oxygen, nitrogen, gold, silver, all these elements. All these elements have certain properties, and the elements they have no option, but they will conform to these properties. So sometimes it is called that is the conformance of the element to its properties, which means if it is gold, it will have a yellowish color. If it is copper, it will have that pinkish color. If it is silver, it will have that white silvery color. That kind of thing is there. It will be metallic. Then it is salt. If it is chlorine, it will be corrosive. Like that, all these properties are there. All these properties are called dharma in case of inert substances. What about in case of animals and plants, etc.? Now, animals, etc., they've got what they call, they have their nature. We are all formed, all the living creatures are formed by an interaction of Purush and Prakriti. And all the Prakriti has got, various organs are there. Prakriti means a form. That form has got, if it's a man, form of a man or form of an animal or whatever, then that form has got certain, it has got a certain shape, a certain body, and in that body it has got certain organs are there, and there are certain systems are there, and they have got certain faculties. the faculty of mind, faculty of intelligence, and faculty of mostly in case of animals, what we call survival instinct. Yeah, these three are there. And because of this survival instinct, the bird knows what how to build a net. Or a child, when it is born, it knows it has to bond with mother, and therefore it will go and immediately that cup which is there, will start searching for and find its mother's teeth and start milking, drinking. So that's how they build bond and start. Duck, for example, it knows from the day it is born how to swim. It doesn't have to be taught how to swim. So these all survival instincts are there. Now, in case of and the survival instinct, along with that, they come what how you will act and react in various circumstances. So in their case, their dharma is to act according to their survival instinct. In case of man, however, things are different. In case of man, there are here three identities. One identity stems from his being a part of divinity. His second identity stems from his being part of Prakriti. As part of Prakriti means he has taken a form. What is that form? That form is human. The human form is you get an identity, and human form means you have to act like a human. When do you act like a human? When you follow uh, human values, what are called human values. Human values are those of love, uh, righteousness, then non-violence, then peace, then called satya and truth. Yeah. So these are five values which are called human values. And we have to act as per these human values. Then our act would be called dharmic act or an act of dharma. If we and this when we act as per these five human values, then the dharma which we perform, they are called swadharma. No, not swadharma. Sadharana dharma. Sadharana or common dharma, which is common to all the human beings, or they're called manav dharma, the dharma of the man, or sadharana dharma or common dharma, which is common to all mankind. In addition to these, in the good old days, when in case of our ancients, there are two other, every individual had to also had his own dharma. That dharma stemmed from the four categories or four varnas, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. In addition, it also emanated from his position in life, whether he was Bal Avastha mein hai, or he was a brahmachari, or he was a grest ashram, say, yeah, from which ashram he is. The Bal Avastha, brahmachari, grest, or vanaprasth, or vairagi. Any of these five ashrams that determine in what kind of actions he is here to perform. And that was called a swadharma. In modern times, it has to be taken from what kind of job that you're holding. Instead of varna, we have to say what kind of job he's holding. Now, each of these jobs, whether, suppose, for example, I may be a teacher, or I may be a cricketer, a professional cricketer, or I may be a artist, or I may be I may be tending to animals, or I may be a farmer, or I may be working in some workshop. So whatever job I'm doing, it has got certain tasks or certain duties to perform. The performance of that duty, if it is carried out perfectly well, then that's called duty. But it is not yet dharma. It becomes dharma if it emanates, all the duty emanates from your manav dharma, from your sadharan dharma, common dharma, which means that all these acts which you are performing must have human value. If you perform this in a indifferent manner without applying human value, then they remain duty. This will explain the action of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Why is it not called dharma? Because they did not apply discrimination. They carried out his duty all right. The General Dyer, he shoot, so they follow the shot. But they have not applied. But this act does not emerge from his Manav Dharma. His Manav Dharma means, or his Sadhan Dharma should have been that these people should not be killed, irrespective of what order he has got. Had he applied his discrimination, power of discrimination, then immediately he would have known that they should not, he should not be shooting. So he committed an act of dharma, or rather a karma. Like I told you, dharma and karma are exactly opposite to each other. So he actually enacted out karma. It was not an act of dharma. So we have what is called swadharma. Each one of us have our individual swadharma. Then we have manav dharma, a common dharma to all mankind. And on top of that, as we are part of divinity, we do not know, we are still not convinced we are divine. We are not attained divinity. We are not yet realized our truth, divinity. So there is one dharma that we have to strive for knowing our divinity. That is our param dharma. So a man has got three kinds of dharma: param dharma, sadharan common dharma, or manav dharma, and finally swadharma. Swadharma is for each one of us individual. So this is now okay. That comes under karma. We will discuss that very briefly. I'll take up what is karma also. Karma and dharma will, whether we like it or not, it will keep on interchanging. No, not interchanging, but it will reflect each other. Karma, on the other hand, is an act that disturbs the balance in the universe and causes to react in order to regain balance. Now, karma we understand as an action. Yes, both dharma is an act and karma is an act. But karma is such an act that disturbs the balance in the universe. Now, balance in the universe, you think that it's a huge, big thing, such a big thing. And if I hit somebody, how can that affect the whole universe? But it does affect how strong, how minute it may be. And it is not merely deeds that affect the universe. Our words affect the universe. Even our thought generate karma. So, so when we say action, action covers thought, words, and deed. All three of them. Even a thought can create disbalance, and the earth is required to rebalance itself. Since it is happening continuously, that's why the whole universe keeps on changing continuously. And that is the universe which is changing. It is a continuous flux, continuous change, continuous motion. On the other hand, if there was complete dharma was there, this earth would have been absolutely still. There would be no motion. That would be like Shiva meditating on Mount Kailash.